Are the big jumps in inventory of homes around Northern Virginia the effects of DOGE, the tariff swings, uncertainty, or are we starting to see something that's called a balanced market, which we haven't seen for 4 or 5 years? I'll talk about all of this in today's video. I'm the first to admit, this is not a typical spring market. I mean, usually we are ratifying contracts, we're having lots of showings, there's a lot of open house attendance, and we did see that in early spring. Super Bowl is always the beginning of the spring market, and it roared to life like it usually does. Then we had April, we had the DOGE effects, then we had the tariffs, and then it just had a little bit of a pause happen in the marketplace. And it was just crazy. Some weeks were just crickets, and we couldn't figure it out. And then other weeks, it was just really strong. So we're gonna see what that means for the numbers in April. And then we're also gonna see some leading indicators weekly that the Bright MLS is giving us, showing us what the pending properties are, what the active properties are, and if there's any type of decreases in sellers adjusting their prices. I talked to an agent the other day and she says, the market's kind of like Swiss cheese. And I thought about that, yeah, there's a couple of holes in the market, but overall, it's still a good piece of cheese. As I dug into the numbers and looked at April, which is a lagging indicator, but it still shows us what was going on in that market, as well as looking at the Bright MLS, as I mentioned, and seeing if there's anything happening week to week that we need to be prepared for as we're talking with buyers, as we're talking with sellers right now. So we're going to dive into those right here. According to the stats for Northern Virginia Association of Realtors, the median sold price for single-family homes in April was $1,075,000. It's down $2,000 from last month, but up 7.5% since April 2024. Townhomes surprisingly dipped to about $673,000 from $711,000 last month, and that is a 0.2% decrease since April 2024. The median sold price for condos was $415,000 for April, and it was an increase of 7.9% since last April 2024. The median days on market for single-family homes and townhomes was 5 days. That's still really good. And for condos, it was 9 days. That just means that buyers and sellers were accepting offers within about 5 days, when the day they go on the market to when they're ratified. And for condos, it was 9. That's still a really fast-moving market. Now, the difference we have right now is that these contracts may not be waiving things. We are starting to see contracts, even with 1 or 2 contracts on every home, we're starting to see things like home inspection contingency, appraisal contingency, financing contingency, and I was even able to get a buyer a home sale contingency this last month, which we're really happy about. But just telling you that there are some subtle changes in the market, and the contract is just starting to get a little bit longer with those contingencies. Buyers are still willing to make an offer in your house. They still love the house, they just have a few contingencies built in. So it's gonna be really important that as you're moving through this changing market from spring to summer, and as inventory is potentially gonna be increasing, you wanna make sure that you are working with an agent that knows how to use the contract, also knows how to understand the contract, and what that means for you and your bottom line, is also when it means to when you're going to be able to sell the house, how are they going to deal with appraisals, how are they going to negotiate in home inspections. All those can be really important as we go through the rest of 2025. So that's looking back at April. And yeah, it was a roller coaster, guys. There was some weeks that was like really fast paced, and there was other weeks that it just really slowed down. And so when it was slowing down, I was making phone calls to a lot of colleagues and trying to figure out, engage with them and figure out, are they seeing the type of activity in their neighborhood? Was it Falls Church or Alexandria, Burke? What's the difference? Is there something going on in these micro markets? And so it was really important to understand those as we went through April, and it also helped me to understand what we're going to be looking at for all of May and what the summer months look like. So since we're talking about these type of things for what the summer months look like, I wanted to share what the Bright MLS is doing. Bright MLS is looking at data week by week. They started this back right when the DOGE effect started happening, just so we can find out, is their inventory increasing? Is it really what we're hearing in the headlines, or is it painting a different picture? And this weekly chart, this is public data. You guys can go on the link. I put a link below so you can see this week by week. And I think it's going to be really important for all consumers and sellers if you can see what's happening. Is there a trend? Are people making decisions differently now? And I'm going to talk to you about what's going on for the May 18th data. According to this weekly report ending on May 18th, Alexandria City had 62 new listings hit the market, which is a 5.1% increase compared to a year ago. A more interesting data point is that 9.9% of active properties had a price adjustment, and that's 2.5% more than a year ago. And new pending contracts were down 3.5% compared to a year ago. Fairfax County had 392 new listings, which is a 4.3% increase compared to a year ago, and 10.6% had a price adjustment, which is only up 1.6% from last year. But the silver lining is that pending contracts are up 14.7% from a year ago. Arlington County had 70 new listings, which is a 1.4% increase compared to a year ago, and 11.7% had a price adjustment. However, there was a 12.1% increase in pending contracts compared to a year ago. Okay, so what we're seeing in this data is that yes, there are some price adjustments happening in the marketplace, anywhere from 10 to 14%, and that is happening. So sellers are understanding that buyers are telling them that the house is overpriced. Maybe they're seeing the property open house, maybe they're seeing the property with their agents, and they're not writing offers. However, when they are adjusting their price, when that 10 to 14% of the sellers are adjusting their price, there's still activity out there. We're actually seeing an increase of pending contracts. So yeah, right now there are properties staying on the market just a little bit longer, but at the same time, there are still buyers out there making decisions about homes in this area because it's fitting them price, condition, and location. And that happens every time. So sellers, just make sure that you are pricing your property according to the market and its condition. And buyers, get out there and see what opportunities are for you, because we're starting to see that there's better opportunities for you. You're not having to compete with 4, 5, 8 offers on certain homes. And you might be able to just get an offer on a property that has contracts, that maybe has a home inspection and a financing and appraisal contingency. All things in our market and in our contract, which tells me that we are starting to see things that will tell us that it's a more balanced market, and that is not bad at all. Let's talk about showings. Now, the last Bright MLS data for May 18th, for some reason, was not pulling in the showing information. So I went ahead and went back to May 11th to talk about what that showing data was like. And I really don't think we're going to see too much of a difference from May 11th to May 18th. I think it's the same type of momentum we've seen in the market. And that will give you an idea of what this looks like moving into the Memorial Day weekend and what the summer months may be like here in Northern Virginia. Here's a roller coaster scenario that will keep us buckled up. Alexandria City had 738 showings, which is 4.1% higher compared to last year, but 13.6% less compared to a week ago. Fairfax County had 6,194 showings, which is 15.8% higher compared to last year, but 7.8% less compared to a week ago. Arlington County had 1,105 showings, which is 34.4% higher compared to last year, but down 13.6% compared to a week ago. All right, so you can see there's this roller coaster. One week there's a lot of showings, another week it's just going down. So what we're trying to figure out here as we go through this market is, are there changes because of spring breaks? Is it holidays? Is there some subtleties and pauses in the market? And I would just have to say that right now, from what we're seeing, is that there are some pauses in the market. But at the same time, when I'm talking to lenders and I'm talking to title companies, they're still seeing people applying, having conversations. I'm even having conversations with buyers that are entering the market right now. I just got a contract the other day for a buyer in Oakton. And I have another client that is looking at properties for the first-time home buyer right now. And 2 more conversations with first-time home buyers. So they're coming into the market, and that's a good thing, because it's starting to be attractive to be able to put in an offer and maybe have a few contingencies in your offer and not having to escalate 10, 15% over asking to get the home. So all good stuff that we're seeing in this market. Just gonna keep watching this. So take a look at that link, because you can see what's going on with the market every single week. If there is a leading indicator telling us that there's people excited to get in the market, and that could tell you that you might not be able to be as might be able to use your contract as much as you wanted to. You might have to leverage by price or some of the conditions to make that more attractive, depending on what you're seeing in the data, as well as the showings and open house attendance at each one of those homes. It's been a wild ride all spring, and I'm here, I'm buckled up, I'm here to make sure that we give you the data as we move into the summer months and keep you updated on what we're seeing in the marketplace so that you're informed to make a great decision for you and for your family. And remember, we're trying to buy homes for 5, 7+ years. That way we are able to follow any of the dips and the rises. And remember, we're not buying interest rates, we're buying homes. Remember, we're also buying a long-term investment that is a place that is for shelter and it's a place that you call your home. So do all your due diligence for that as well. I can't wait to share more information as we go through the summer months. If you need anything, feel free to reach out. If I can help you out in any way, we're here just one click away. Until next time.